Okay, guys, it's award show season. We really need to get this right. Wait a minute. Did you give me the right list? This looks like the same Grammys list as last year's.
Oh, no. It's just that they're nominating the DLCs for half of the game that we talked about last year.
Okay, sure, but there's this weird out-of-pocket choice. Are you...
No. It's entirely different.
Entirely different.
See, you're mixing the list that has Star Wars, Avatar, two other big-name games, and a weird out-of-pocket choice with the list that actually has Star Wars, Avatar, two other big-name games, and a weird out-of-pocket choice. It's entirely different, see?
Entirely.
My headache was not ready for this. Let's just talk about how the award shows are screwing things up again this year. Welcome to the anniversary of the Music Arcade. Hello, everyone. I'm Galen, the Sound Guy Firestone. Welcome to the Music Arcade.
I'm Monaco.
And I'm Eddie, and I already made a joke before. We had a bit of a trouble start today.
We sure did. I'm very much on top of my game. I know how to arm tracks. That's something I know how to do. Professional sound guy knows how to hit one button, apparently.
I mean, to be fair, you have a lot of one button to hit ahead of time.
Yeah, you have to hit one button, and then you have to hit one button, and then you have to hit one button.
Yeah, I feel like cookie clicker before.
Yeah. It's kind of like that.
Yes, because my job is
Macbeth,
exactly like cookie clicker.
I was gonna say it's kind of like that bit of dialogue in Macbeth, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, but it's one button, and one button, and one button.
Well, actually, given that the Game Awards start in about 5 hours at time of recording, I can safely anticipate that it's less tomorrow and more tomorrow comes and tomorrow comes. Yeah? Point being, I look forward to seeing multiple French people on stage starting to stop having things to say and people to thank.
Yeah, that's going to be I don't know. I'm still convinced that Expedition 33 is going to get screwed, but I hope it wins.
That's
it deserves
very much
it.
a possibility. Yeah,
anyway, so just to talk about
good
what
game.
It is. So just to talk about what Rana alluded to, we normally record these episodes right after Thanksgiving, but for reasons of technical difficulties and timing, that just didn't come to be. And it turns out the day we were able to record our anniversary episode, talking about the nominees, is the actual day of the Game Awards.
Not for me, technically, it's after midnight.
Well, it's still today.
French.
Yeah, but currently for me, it's tomorrow, just... Whatever, that's beside the point. That's not important.
Anyway, so we decided we were just going to go ahead with our planned episode, even though by the time this comes out, the winners will have already been announced for at least one of these shows.
But we don't know them yet.
We don't know them yet, and frankly, I think it's important to give all of the nominees an equal share without ruminating on who the winner is. I still like this plan better.
Since there's a lot of good nominees. Like, I've alluded to it during the pre-show, but there's not a single soundtrack that I dislike. And many of them I didn't even expect to be into them, and were some good surprises.
Also, let's be honest, there are two ways this can go. One of them is we look like oracles and we predict everything, and that's amazing. And the other way is we look like fools, and that is funny.
That's fair. My Grammys are the angrier takes. The Game Awards, I don't hate what I'm looking at. I'm not sure I agree with everything here, but I don't hate what I'm looking at.
I have one pick for the Game Awards that I really, really disliked.
Really?
Oh, really?
Otherwise, the Game Awards are really cool. The Grammys... I would say the Grammys, like, musically speaking, there is a lot of artistry there, but some of those should not have been even nominated.
I fully agree for a whole lot of reasons, and we will talk about them later. But let's start with what everyone's here to talk about. The Game Awards, the one that the gamers think are more important. I still think they're a dumb award show, but whatever.
I mean, there are no non-dumb award show, one might say.
Correct, and this is coming from a guy who was nominated for an Emmy twice, so I'm very well aware of how stupid award shows are.
Now, how about we start with Silksong then?
I mean, it sounds great. Use of strings throughout. The music style is very romantic, and I mean that in terms of romantic period, of Beethoven's period of classical music, not romantic as in lovey-dovey, because it definitely doesn't sound like that. Something I found kind of interesting...
Go ahead.
Something I found kind of interesting is occasionally I heard influence of Hitoshi Sakimoto in here. Incisive Battle, in particular, sounds like it could have been a B-side from Final Fantasy Tactics.
I need to double-check that song. I didn't catch that.
The instrumentation, the choice of instrument is likely different from what Sakimoto would prefer, but I can see that in the composition.
Yeah, obviously the instrumentation is much more scaled down compared to the orchestral bombing Sakimoto prefers. It's very string heavy. Like, this probably has some of the best use of cello and viola that I've heard in a very long time.
Which fits with the theme of the game and the fact that, like, one of the actions you eventually unlock is literally playing cello, which has gameplay effects.
I need to play Silksong at some point, but they just announced some DLC for it, so, like...
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to wait for all of it to be out, because I don't want to... It's one of those games that I don't want to replay, because the first one, I played the whole thing all the way through with all DLC, and it was huge.
Oh, it is. Like, I remember one of the videos about it that I really liked was the critique of the game from Joseph Anderson, and he made a point to describe it as a critique and not a review, because a review is for a product, and as a product, given the amount of content provided for the price, it was unattackable.
That is a great point. I love that.
Yeah. And as far as the soundtrack goes, the main word that comes to my mind is monumentality. Although, in a way, that's a bit more conventional than, like, Metaphor with Fantasia soundtrack, which also evoked that feeling, but with much more of a weird angle from it that worked really well as far as I'm concerned. This one, it's also great in execution, but perhaps, compared to some of the other picks from the Game Awards, a little bit by the book, in my opinion. Like, this is kind of the weird situation I put myself in, because while I played the game, I really liked the soundtrack. While listening to it, I really like it as well. It's a great soundtrack. And I think it's at the bottom of those 5 games for me.
I have a
which is crazy. Like, that says something about the level on display there. There's some great entries this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't say I agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from. I personally am still in love with some of the tracks here. When we did our female-led choir episode, and I discovered Choral Chambers, that song's been, like, on repeat for me since then. There are some really, really pretty pieces here, and also some of the combat tracks also are really, really cool. I'd say it's kind of... It is at the bottom half, let's say, of the 5 nominees. But it is really good.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic soundtrack, no question there.
I would actually put it in my top half, but it isn't my favorite to win. I would say this is like 3 or 2 for me. Because I totally see what you're saying, but also, like, this is what they set out to do, and they did it really, really well.
Yeah, exactly. And I will come to that further when we talk about other games later down the line. But, like, basically, it started, well, this is probably going to be around the top, maybe second, maybe third. And I like that soundtrack better, and I like that one better, and it just kept being pushed down. for me. It's weird.
I think the main thing for
it's the kind of situation where it would be a contender to win handily in most of the years.
But if it was up against the Grammy lineup, it would be my favorite by a wide margin.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, okay, I take that back. There's one in the Grammys that I do like. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I think for me, what made it drop some positions in the list is that I kind of like originality is a bit too strong of a word, but I like experimentation. I guess that's a better way of putting it.
That's maybe my main standpoint there.
Right. And so this is a song that is really a soundtrack that is really pretty, that I really enjoy. All the different vibes that it brings up are masterfully executed, but it is it's sort of
it is what it should sound like.
Yeah, it's what you for the most part it's what you expect a Silksong soundtrack would sound like, something from Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it is really good, and I heavily recommend listening to it.
Then how about we move on to our next entry to expand a little bit our field of analysis and talk about Hades 2.
Darren Korb can do no wrong.
Indeed. And this one is the first one where I can talk about a way to contrasting songs soundtrack with its diversity in the way that they are in the same soundtrack in a way that makes sense. A rock band diss track and an orchestral mythological epic piece. And it all works because of the environments of where you go in. It illustrates very well, but by taking winding path, because it feels like a soundtrack that's having fun.
I did not get that impression.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is where I'm going to look like an uncultured swine, because I actually, this doesn't sound as iconic as the first game. To me, by a wide margin. It doesn't fill me with a whole lot of emotion. It's just the first game, but more. It's masterfully created, but it really feels to me like more of the same. Is that bad? Is that good? I don't know.
I don't really feel that way.
Yeah.
It does have proximity, especially in the first few levels, but the way it branches out and goes in different reaches than what you'd expect at first is what kind of sticks out to me. In a way, the structure is the same, but they're kind of taking their Lego blocks, rearranging them in a different way, and then adding a completely different set of construction blocks on top of them. And then
you see,
a little bit of plastic into the
that's
side.
Where I disagree with you. I think it's all the same Legos. It's rearranged very masterfully, but it's all the same Legos to me.
I am sort of in the middle here, because I can see both sides of the argument.
Your Swiss passport will arrive to you under 2 weeks.
Yeah, I feel very very comfortable on the fence here. It's a very comfortable spot. But ironically, it does still make up my top 2, I think, for the soundtracks. Mm-hmm. Even though I am not as pro Hades 2 as Rana. But I did like, in particular, I enjoyed a lot of things here, but 2 things in particular. First is the continuation of how Supergiant Games likes to play with the game world interacting with the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You have some it's not to the level of Transistor, but it's more than Hades 1 did. You have
especially during the boss fight against the sirens, where depending on which of the 3 sub-character you knock down, instruments leave the track or overemphasize what one of them is designated as the star of the show. So
I haven't played the game
encounter musically for that.
Yeah, I haven't played the game, so I haven't experienced it that way. I just listened to it on Spotify, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I could still notice like there was some play there with the sirens, and I also like how there are a couple songs here where they play a lot with some syncopation on the percussion side, which I find interesting for Hades 2 in particular, because the drums are usually the instrument that keeps a band on tempo. So you're fighting the god of time, the tempo is gonna get messed with.
No, absolutely.
That includes a song with Lewis Cole on drums, where I think the actual melody seems to be in 4/4, but Lewis Cole does not care about the actual time signature here. For those not in the know, Lewis Cole is I think he's mostly a soul drummer, sort of avant-garde soul. His main band is Nowhere, and he is your favorite drummer's favorite drummer, basically.
Yeah, no one is arguing that this isn't masterfully created. Like, the actual compositions are all awesome. Darren Korb is great.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it, in my mind, differentiates itself enough to be on this list. Then again, what would replace it, to be perfectly honest with you? Like,
yeah,
I will
say that point.
As far as the way the soundtrack is structured, like the way the tracks have these movements that are invoked in a similar way. There's the part when you are post-battle, pre-battle, during the battle, during a boss battle in this biome, and it's a similar structure to Hades 1 in that sense, yes.
And they also, as it turns out, they use the orchestral version of In the Blood in the soundtrack, which they originally launched it on YouTube as an anniversary thing for the anniversary of the original Hades release. And I'm not sure if it's the exact same version, but there is an orchestral version of that song here, which kind of strengthens Galen's point, because they literally use the same song, though based on the title, I think it probably makes sense in the context.
It does.
But yeah, I do think I don't think it does as much original stuff as Rana is saying, but I do think it does some new original stuff enough to make it worthy of being my top 2 pick here.
That's kind of where I point. Like, I'm not saying this completely upturns the table of what Hades 1 did. What I'm saying is just that it does some fun things as a soundtrack without taking Hades 1 into consideration.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the main difference on where each of us is standing.
Now, from a voter perspective, this is strictly a voter perspective, this is my favorite to win. I think this is the most likely winner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can see that.
I think voters are going to be in tune with this. I think the number of people who have played this game, I think the anticipation matters here. I could see Silksong sneaking in, but this one I think is the likely winner coming out of the Game Awards voters. From what I
actually noted Silksong as my likely winner.
I could totally see that happening. Yeah,
like the main thing is that public votes they only account for, I think, 10% of the score.
10 or 20, something like that.
Yeah, it's a low percentage, so it's hard to gauge based entirely on the community, let's say.
Yeah, I'm trying to gauge it on press expectations.
That makes sense. I think if fan votes had a higher percentage of influence, Silksong would win because the memes around it are just that strong. It has way more listens on Spotify than most other soundtracks here. It's ridiculous.
I could see it going to one of those two for sure.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, I love all of those soundtracks, even though despite what I said in praise of Hades 2, that's my number 4 in this list. I wouldn't be angry about any one of those winning, honestly.
I would be angry with one of
them. Soundtracks.
I would be angry with one of them, and we will talk about that later.
We will.
I'm guessing it might be the same as the one that I would be angry about.
Then I will have some interesting counterpoints, I hope. But for now, how about we move on to Expedition 33, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, if you want to be fancy about it.
The one that should win, in my opinion.
I think from a strictly, first-time composer, out-of-nowhere indie phenomenon, it's hard not to look at the story of the creation of this game and not go, damn, they made something special here. And I don't think any of us are saying anything we haven't already said about the soundtrack.
We will probably do an entire episode about this soundtrack later down the line.
I hope so.
That's the main reason why I don't have many notes on the soundtrack here, because I kind of want to do a deep dive on it at some future point.
I wanted to talk enough about the soundtrack that I resumed my playthrough that I interrupted somewhere during Act 2 and finished the game last Monday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
As for my notes, what I've started with was that Expedition 33, by its soundtrack alone, shows that it understands what made Nier Automata click better than Stellar Blade did. Some of its track rearrange things and kind of put their own spin and try to evoke the emotion rather than copy the homework next table is something that felt touching and artful. And
artful is a good way to put this whole game. At every point, the art seemed to be first. And can we just once again stress, Lorien Testard is a first-time game composer. They discovered him on SoundCloud. What the hell?
Yeah.
This is such a miracle of a soundtrack.
Yeah, I would at least understand it if he was very good at one genre. If you told me someone's first soundtrack was Silksong's soundtrack, that would be phenomenal already.
Yeah.
But for this one, you have epic masterpieces, you have modular tracks that change 5 times throughout the course of one dungeon, you have silly smooth jazz minigame themes. All of those kind of going together in a way that's phenomenal. I'm not saying, for instance, that the boss fight theme against the ultimate Sakapatat is the best weirdo fighting against a mecha track in all of the soundtrack. What I'm saying is that the fact they nailed well enough this and all of the other genres they approached is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Something I also find fascinating about the soundtrack is that, with the exception of the stuff around the gestrels, which are, I think, deliberately meant to be a bit of an odd...
they're the Moogles of the game. They're the obvious mascots. Yeah,
they are with the idiots in universe as called out by the characters themselves.
There you go. With the exception of the gestrels, and that also includes the music that goes around the gestrels, everything else, despite the wide range of genres being covered in the soundtrack, it still all fits within the sort of French Gothic aesthetic that the game goes for.
Yeah.
I would say even with the gestures, it's still something that manages to have a cohesion about it all.
Yeah.
They all belong to the same game.
I don't want to make it sound like the gestures don't belong in this game. It's more that they are a break from the Gothic vibes of everything else.
Absolutely, they are.
But that everything else being Gothic, even though the sounds aren't always Gothic, but still fit, is impressive. That's my main takeaway here.
Technically, it's post-romantic / Belle Epoque more than Gothic.
Yeah, it's kind of leaning into Impressionist, but that's splitting hairs that are totally unnecessary to split.
Just to be clear, I don't mean Gothic in like the historical period or anything. I mean Gothic in the subculture.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's not going to win, but god damn it, I want it to win.
I think it has its chance.
It has a chance.
That's my number one.
It has a chance. I'm too cynical to see it happening. This game feels like it exists to be spited by the powers that be.
I'm too optimistic to not see it happen. We shall see who is the truest oracle. This is now a battle.
That's why we love you, because if it was just me and Galen, it would be doom and gloom for the entire episode.
Exactly. I am with podcast's little ray of sunshine.
Yeah, the soundtrack's good, obviously. Holy crap, it's good. Yeah. I hope it wins. It won't, but I hope it does.
Yeah.
I think I have
to
a
say
little
so
bit
much more about this soundtrack, and we need an entire episode to do that, and even there will be a lot left unsaid.
Absolutely. Also, Eddie, are you planning on finishing it sometime soon?
I do. It's just, God, this year's been rough on my mental health. But yeah,
that's fair.
It is on my plans.
Where
I do think I'm
right
a bit
now,
more.
Out of curiosity.
I'm near the end of Act 1.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I do.
Then you
are
approaching one of my favorite tracks because of how its tone completely changes depending on whether it's the first time you listen to it or not.
I actually got spoiled about some of the plot points. I can imagine the reason why. We'll see.
But it works really well in both those contexts.
Well, looking forward to it. But I just wanted to finish with one observation that I think I'm a little bit more optimistic about this game's chances than Galen, but it is still the number 2 in my list of how likely they are to win. I think Silksong is more likely.
All right. Then if my vote is, my prediction is for Expedition 33, yours is for Silksong, and Galen's is for Hades 2, then what about the other 2 games? Let's start with Ghost of Yōtei.
This is my least favorite of the 5 soundtracks by a wide margin.
Okay, I was wrong.
I can understand why, and go ahead, start us out.
It just plays it really, really safe. It's Japanese instrumental plus modern orchestral. It's exactly what you would expect with, I would argue, almost no variation over what you would expect, and it exists. It sounds fine.
That is exactly what I thought at first. Now, I didn't play the game for first. Well, what changed my mind was 2 things. First, I considered it in contrast with other tracks, and I thought I knew exactly what this soundtrack would sound like and marked it as a note against the track, which would apply as well to Silksong. They are in different genres, but they both are exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah,
except
I agree with that.
Except Ghost of Yōtei has an ace up its sleeve. Watanabe mode. Watanabe mode is a mode in the game named after anime director Shinichiro Watanabe, who directed Samurai Champloo.
Yeah.
And activated Watanabe mode changes completely the soundtrack for an atmosphere that's more laid back, more lo-fi with variations and remixes of the tracks that are tacked at the end of the soundtrack that switch up the atmosphere. And this is like the one extra step that takes it one step above Silksong in my heart.
Now,
without
I need to
that,
comment
I
on
would
this.
put it under that.
I need to comment on this. Apparently, I watched the wrong soundtrack video because I didn't hear any of that. Had I heard that, my opinion of this probably would have been a lot higher. But no, I only heard the orchestral tracks this whole time.
Yeah, and if I did, I would have gone exactly the same opinion as you. Like, the bass soundtrack is exactly what you'd expect, very well executed, but it's the shakuhachi and the shamisen you'd expect. Like, the shamisen track in particular, there's one track that's named with the shamisen, and the worst part of it is how the shamisen is completely drowned by the other instrument, where it's an instrument that shines on its lonesome very well.
I know exactly the track you're talking about, yeah.
Yep. And this track I actively disliked. But overall, with that extra mode that I thankfully caught and that you unfortunately didn't, that took it to the next step enough that this edged Silksong out.
Had I heard that, I probably would have a much improved opinion of the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. As far as my enjoyment of the soundtrack, this was right in the middle, and I didn't know about Watanabe mode also, because I'm just checking on Spotify now.
And that's why there's 3 of us.
Yeah, I'm checking on Spotify now. They released music from Watanabe mode as a separate album.
Aha.
So that's why I didn't catch it. It's
well, that's why you get your hip-hop inspired samurai stories.
That sounds so much more interesting. Oh, man.
Yeah, I actually liked the bass soundtrack quite a lot, to be honest. Admittedly, I think I'm, out of the 3 of us, I'm the one who's the least, how do I put it? The one who experiences Japanese music the least, let's put it that way.
That's fair.
Yes, you are the least weeb of us 3.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it. That is another way of putting it, but your word, not mine.
Exactly. Consider yourself absolved.
But yeah, the fact that I don't get exposed to Japanese music as often, I think made it rise a bit above some of the contenders for me, because I really enjoyed the sort of Western by way of Ronin vibes of some of the songs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this is
like
middle of the pack.
The plot of the game is basically there are 6 people. I will take vengeance on these 6 people exactly.
That sounds right.
That's about as Western / samurai as you can get.
Yeah, they are honestly the same category. It is hilarious to me how similarly, like even in movies, samurai films and westerns actually feel. They are kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of why George Lucas got inspired by both when making Star Wars, because it was the same thing.
Yeah.
May as well mix the 2 aesthetics.
Absolutely.
But yeah, now that I know about this extra mode, I do really want to give it a shot after we're done recording, because it's just 6 tracks, but it sounds really good. It's a shame. It's a shame that it seems like they didn't manage to get something from Nujabe's estate.
Absolutely.
Nujabes was the guy who basically started lo-fi hip-hop, and I think he actually
composed for Samurai Champloo.
I was about to say, I think he actually did Samurai Champloo.
Yeah. That's him.
Yeah, I flat out said in my notes, reminds me of Horizon, and I don't think that's a compliment. This does not sound like it would remind me of Horizon.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man, okay. Well, I have something to look forward to now.
Indeed.
So do I.
And finally, we have Hideo Kojima's mixtape.
Yeah, but I really like the original tracks on here.
Agreed. Agreed. That was a bait and switch because it has that, but it manages to have that along with a great original soundtrack.
Yeah.
And to have the two work together in the same theme.
I think I just hate Woodkid too much.
The Woodkid tracks are my least favorites of the soundtrack.
I used to really like Woodkid when he first came out, I think around 2013. His first album was really cool. Everything since then has just been boring to me.
I haven't followed, but that's unfortunate.
I didn't listen to literally everything, but I tried to catch something from each new release, and it feels like it should be in an Apple commercial.
Yeah,
damn, that's
this
harsh.
part of the soundtrack doesn't really appeal to me either, but it's essentially a soundtrack in three parts. There's the Woodkid tracks, there's the licensed tracks, which are which slot in naturally to the third part as well, which are the original tracks composed by Ludvig Forssell, which are very diverse, but with this kind of emotion as a bit of a through line that goes through both that soundtrack and the licensed track, of this moodiness, of this regretful, melancholic feeling to it, which work very well. Although for the original part of the soundtrack, there are also some tracks that are more about fitting the occasion and intensity in the case of fight tracks, including some wonderful names like Burdenless Bonehead Bashing, A+ track name, no notes.
I just saw that the licensed tracks are it's literally 3 separate albums on Spotify. There's the Woodkid album, the Ludvig Forssell album, and I only now found the licensed track album. I didn't realize it was actually part of the game because a lot of people make fantasy playlist albums on Spotify.
And one of those people is Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, that sums it up.
I don't know. Here, the churches are here. Like, what the hell? Maybe I wouldn't have disliked this as much if I knew about this album.
Yeah, this is the thing that
I strike again.
Yep. So there's a guy I know. Don't really like him very much, but we were friendly at one point, and he once called Death Stranding a great big steaming pile of Kojima, and I don't know what else to call that.
Yeah. The themes evolve in an interesting way, but the soundtrack feels a bit more cohesive, perhaps a bit less outright Kojima dumping his mixtape and that's it. The various are more tightly knit together, but it's like you cannot talk about this game without talking about Hideo Kojima.
No, obviously not. He's always clearly had aspirations to be a filmmaker. That is very evident from his games.
Yep.
And he definitely approaches this game and, frankly, this soundtrack in a really, new Hollywood kind of way. This actually reminds me in no small way of Easy Rider, which seems insane, but if you're a film buff, you can see it. That's really kind of all I can say. There's definitely that energy there.
Yeah, my personal opinion of Kojima is a bit of a negative one. I got really tired of him after Metal Gear Solid 3.
I can hardly blame you.
Yeah, and that Stranding, both the games and, in a way, the soundtrack are Kojima doing what he wants, free from the shackles of Konami. And Konami was the only thing keeping his games fun to play for me.
Yeah, that is... You are certainly not alone in that complaint. That is not unique to you.
It's weird because
well aware.
On my end, it is very Kojima, and there's definitely issues about the guy and his oeuvre, but I hear here is a weird walking simulator. No, I mean really walking is an essential part of the gameplay, and you're going to have to think about it all the time. And I hear that and I think that sounds awesome. But at the same time, I've had one of those games for like years now installed on my computer. I can now run it correctly, and I still haven't.
I mean, the way you put it, it makes it sound like a co-op made by an artist.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't
inventory
played
management.
Yeah. I saw some clips, but I haven't played it myself, and I have no interest.
I am curious about it. Not enough curiosity to actually play it myself, but enough curiosity that if someone put channel points into making me play it as a pick a game, I would be looking forward to it. Does that make any sense?
That makes sense.
I can see that. But,
at least this way you have the plausible argument of someone made me do it, so it's okay.
That's fair.
Always gotta have that little bit of a safety zone.
Exactly.
But as far as the soundtrack, I think, like Rana said, he strikes again. I couldn't find this. I didn't know it existed. The album of licensed tracks. So maybe if I dig around that, I'll enjoy it.
I think it expands on what the core soundtrack, what the original soundtrack does, in a way that's a bit more fun than the Woodkid arm of that soundtrack, and in a way that again shows one of the points we've brought up multiple times on this podcast, which is that music selection is also a skill, and that it worked pretty well in this case, at least from looking at the soundtrack in the abstract. I haven't played this game either for now.
Yeah,
but it looks like cohesive.
Yeah, I'm not counting it towards like an award show thing, but taking it as part of the soundtrack as a whole, like everything here seems like it would fit. I'd have to hear it in context, but like I've heard some like humdingers of like, why is this here in my life? And nothing strikes me as that, at least insofar as this track list is concerned.
Yeah.
Like even just a game I played this year, a game I could theoretically blame you for, Rana, suddenly had like new metal come out of nowhere, and I'm like, what? Who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah, like you don't reach that without doing what one might expect Kojima not to do, which is to kill some of their darlings. You do have to make cuts at some point, and I think the soundtrack as a whole gained from it.
Kojima is an auteur. He knows how to edit. He just wants a different product than most gamers, which is his right. It's clear he has a pretty clear vision of what he's doing. I don't think he has a problem editing. I just think he edits things differently than other people would.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He has a style and he goes for it.
He does.
And I think that's sort of where the divide exists, because at Konami he was being held back and had to focus more on gameplay. By that I mean he had to make gameplay decisions that would be more mainstream, let's say.
Conventional, like it had to fit a genre people would understand, instead of inventing something that doesn't fit nearly any category and call it a trend game.
Yeah, Konami had to be able to sell it without inventing, pretend it's a new genre.
And yet I'm pretty sure Death Stranding sold more than Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah, he realized, I'm Hideo Kojima. My ego is bigger than Konami. I can sell a game on my name.
He did.
Here, let me just call
Twice.
Jeff Keighley real quick. We'll show him a picture of a baby stuck in a throat. That'll get people talking. And it worked. Can't even be mad.
No. There's one thing I can't be is angry. This does not make me angry.
Unlike the selection for the Grammys.
Who are these voters and why do they suck so much?
I don't know. And like, after listening to those soundtracks as a whole, they're nice soundtracks. But I'm going to say a lot of good things about those soundtracks. What I'm not going to say is that any of them makes the most, like, any besides one, maybe two, makes sense in a nomination at the end of 2025.
I only have one. The rest of these can go away.
Yeah, I have one and maybe two, with a caveat, let's say. That's how I would put it.
Point being, you could take two people that never played a video game in their life drunk, and they would probably get a selection that makes more sense than this one.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that one of the nominations here, in fact, the last one we'll talk about, only made it in because the same person who voted for Wizardry last time is still voting.
No, I'll go to bat for that one.
Same. That's the one that I actually like.
Yeah, I like it. I'm just saying I think that's the only reason it's here, because the Grammys
I
nomination
wouldn't
committee.
say that, but let's go through and start with the first of two Ubisoft open world DLCs.
First of three, I think. I think the other is an album with 2 DLCs, but yeah.
Yeah, but
first,
Great Circle isn't by
Avatar.
Ubisoft.
Yep. Let's start with Avatar.
Avatar, Frontier of Pandora, Secret of the... I forgot to take it in my notes.
Secrets of the Spires.
There it is.
My initial notes start with one very important line is, why am I listening to this again?
Oh, I didn't listen to the core of the soundtrack. I just took the 10 to 15 last tracks.
I listened to several tracks, and I'm like, it's Pinar Toprak. I like her. She's good. But this shouldn't be here.
Yeah. It
Like,
shouldn't.
I feel like
all of my
I
complaints
feel like
about Hades 2 not sounding different enough from Hades 1 to make it on the list is like amplified by 100 on this one. It's the same damn soundtrack as the first time I listened to this probably shouldn't have been nominated soundtrack. It's more of the same on top of more of the same.
Yeah, I kind of have like 2 problems with this being here. The first is that it's an extension of the base game in terms of sound. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with DLCs being nominated, but as far as the sound, it's just an extension of the base game.
Yeah.
And the other problem I have is that this DLC has so little track time. Like, the songs are extremely short. It results in a 23-minute album.
Didn't we have that
almost
problem last
nothing.
year with like God of War Ragnarok Valhalla?
Yes, Valhalla was, I think, 6 songs because it was a free DLC update.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full-blown DLC that you would purchase.
It makes
This
for
one
a
isn't
short
as-
homework if you hate video game soundtracks, I guess.
I guess. This one isn't as egregious, but it's still like 23 minutes of music, and it's enough to be worthy of being nominated as one of the best soundtracks.
Grammy voters don't
Yeah, like-
understand video games. That is very evident by this list.
Like, the fact there is no overlap at all with the Game Award nominations, which have, again, some absolutely fantastic picks and some tracks that I didn't expect to sound that great and surprised me positively. And then we have that weirdo selection. And this isn't even the weirdest part of it.
No, we're going to get to weirder very quickly. But
Yeah,
for now, it's
but,
like...
as far as the soundtrack goes, like, Fighting for Home is a solid track that fits the setting and is fighty, yeah.
Sure.
The rest are nice tracks to play while you're watching trailers that makes you want to travel to new places, you know? That kind of vibe. It's luxuriant, it's nice, it's not groundbreaking, but it's pleasant.
It's neat.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything special, but it's
not worthy of faint
to.
praise.
Yeah, but faint praise being nominated for a major award feels
exactly
unresearched, honestly. Like, three of these are just major movie properties: Avatar, Indiana Jones, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, okay, that alone is like the Grammys don't care.
No, absolutely.
I almost argue we shouldn't even talk about them, but like, I don't know. This feels.
I like the weirdness, and honestly, I don't hate the part where it makes me listen to some pieces of soundtracks that I wouldn't really have paid attention on my own.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. Like, we get to discover something. I'm never playing any of these games except maybe Indiana Jones.
Now then, moving on to the second track, and it's Helldivers 2.
Yep. Is it undemocratic to call this boring and basic?
I want to use the game's full government name, which is hit video game from 2023 Helldivers 2.
It's absurd. It got. I think the full history is that it got an early access in 2023, the full version in 2024 for PC and PlayStation, the Xbox version in 2025.
And what even is an Xbox these days?
It's a Game Pass, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a subscription service for PC gamers.
I see.
Yeah, I looked into the background as to what is it doing here, and there are basically two options. Either Grammy goes by album release date, and the release date was in May of 2025, so it was in the nomination window for this edition of the Grammys, or something that is much dumber and also kind of funnier, and because it's dumber, it's probably more likely. It got released on Xbox 4 days before the window for 2026 closed.
So there's a third option that I would like to discuss before we move on.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
And that is that the Grammys just don't care about when something was released. And I will tell you several examples of why that is. Example number one, no doubt Once Upon a Time won Best New Artist after 10 years making music. Number two, Christopher Tin won a Grammy for Baba Yetu from Civilization, I think, 3, several years after that game's release.
Full. Civilization's full.
That was from 4? Okay.
Yeah.
Several years after that game's release. I would posit...
That checks out.
Yeah, I would posit that the Grammys are stupid. And here's another reason why the Grammys are stupid. Back in the late 1980s, Metallica's And Justice for All was up against the Best Metal category against Jethro Tull. And Jethro Tull won. This is the late 1980s. It's been 25 years. 35 years.
Honestly, it's impressive that an institution manages to keep its cookie and canniness, let's say generously.
Yeah.
At this point, I kind of have to applaud their consistency in being done.
Oh, yeah, I respect it. Like, imagine if we were in charge of making troll picks for the worst selection possible of things that would be credible in any weird alternate dimension. We wouldn't have come up with picks like those.
No. So, Helldivers 2 is... It may be one of those reasons, Eddie, that it has to do with album release date or game release specifically. I think that even that is giving the Grammys too much credit. I think they have a long track record of just not doing the research.
I will consider your well-researched theory that maybe the Grammys are dumb.
And in establishing these two opposite theories, you too have done more research into it than the Grammys did in their nomination, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Anyway, Helldivers 2 soundtrack is nice. The fact that it's satirical lets it get away with being very expected, very much propaganda turned into soundwave and cracked just a little bit higher. It works for the setting, but you know what it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't hate this soundtrack. I think even that, though, might be... Again, that implies the Grammys understand that it's satirical. I think it's just... It's a popular game with music that sounds reasonably good. We're just going to vote it in. That's my theory on how this happened.
I do want to note one thing, because the nominee for this soundtrack is just Wilbert Roget II. He did most of the soundtrack, but there are two songs at the very end of the soundtrack by I have it written down here. Just let me find my notes real quick. There are two songs at the end there by Ross. I didn't stop to research how to pronounce the surname. Tregenza, something like that. Which are, I think they're meant to be in-universe songs. One of them is March of the Helldivers, and the other is Super Earth National Anthem.
Yeah, that sounds...
I think the Grammys aren't giving him enough credit because I enjoyed his songs. I think they add some solid world building on the album.
And it's not like it's 2 tracks out of 87 or something. The soundtrack is like, what, 24 tracks?
13. Counting those 2 by Ross. If you discount those, it's 11.
All right.
Yeah, this is, again, just... We're not researching. We're too good at our jobs and professional to ever research lowly video games.
It sends me back to that times when I was in primary school, where I made sure to stretch my letters as wide as possible to make sure my writing exercises had to be repeated as few times as possible.
Yeah.
Move.
Although this doesn't really apply to the next soundtrack, which is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, probably because it's an adaptation of a movie franchise, and so they understand that it exists.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good job.
This is, I think, the 6th or 7th time that Gordy Haab, who's the composer, has done a soundtrack to a game where the assignment was you have to sound like John Williams, because he's done basically every EA released Star Wars game.
Yep.
And I think this is the only time where I kind of buy that it does sound like John Williams.
Yeah.
The other games...
I think one of the things that really help it tonally is that a lot of the game is puzzle solving, not fighting.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot more room to evoke the calmer moments of the films and to not just copy paste the most famous part. And so,
or maybe the guy has more is more attuned to the sound of Indiana Jones than Star Wars.
That's also possible, of course. And not just Indiana Jones, I'll say, but even the genres that inspired it, like the pulp fictions of the era before it. It reveals a lot of the personality that the game manages to involve, and the game is really good at that with its visuals and with its voice acting. Does some incredible job on that front as well. And indeed, with the writing and the soundtrack, it all works very well to make a whole result that really slots in the Indiana Jones series of movies and stands out as really an extension of the series that shines on its own.
Yeah, there's even talking about the game as a whole rather than just the soundtrack. There's even a story from Troy Baker, who voices Indiana Jones in the game.
Yeah,
where he says, I think it's an interview where he says that he wasn't feeling like he was getting the voice right. He wasn't sounding like Harrison Ford, and he wanted to quit until he got another cast member just told him, "Dude, you don't need to sound like Harrison Ford,"
which was the correct call.
Yeah,
yeah. You don't need to think you sound like him. You need to make the players feel like you're him. And you do. Like, I actually played a little bit of the game. You do feel like you're in indie when you're playing this.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack helps. If Gordy Haab hadn't gotten the vibe right, like with the Star Wars games, it just wouldn't have felt like you were in an Indiana Jones movie. But it does. So I think it doesn't win points for originality, but I think there is something to be said about the skill.
Yeah, like this is one special case where it being more original would have been detrimental.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from with that one. I don't think I agree, but I don't No, I think you're right. I think I'm overthinking this one. I don't
trades
hate it.
Originality for verisimilitude.
I think if it were in third person, I think I would be more on the side of I want more originality. But since it's actually in first person, it almost plays off as an Indiana Jones simulator. So I think it being this successful at mimicking John Williams' style is kind of needed to sell the vibe in this case.
I wouldn't say necessarily mimicking his style, but more like walking in that general Indiana Jones idea and kind of like what you remember of the movies expanded and given a fresh coat, not of paint, but of varnish, you know?
The last two Indiana Jones movies have been very divisive. I liked the fourth one. I did. I liked the fourth one, I'll be honest. I didn't hate it nearly as much as everyone else did. But
I haven't watched it, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, the fact that it takes a different kind of genre as its source of inspiration was maybe at the center of this division.
I think that doesn't hurt. I think I can understand why it would play with expectations, but I almost don't mind it. Like, never mind. I don't want to get into a long discussion about Crystal Skull. That's not the point. The point is, this feels... I think Machine Games' point of this game was to bring Indiana Jones back to form for the first time since Last Crusade, at least in their minds. Whether or not that's justified is a whole other conversation. And from everything I'm hearing, they largely succeeded in capturing that.
Which is quite the feat of strength.
Yeah. And I like Machine Games a lot. They made the Wolfenstein games. I love those games. So...
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and they do have, from the Wolfenstein games, a great nose for using music as part of the world building.
Yeah. So I could see myself playing and enjoying this. I think this is the one game on here and the one soundtrack on here that even sight unseen I could be like, yeah, I dig this. I understand this. I maybe not the soundtrack. I don't know. On the one hand, I'm like, yeah, it probably should sound like John Williams. On the other hand, why is that doing an award? That shouldn't be award worthy. It's just...
Oh, absolutely.
You understand the assignment, but the assignment doesn't belong here.
Yeah, I like the game better than I like its presence here.
Yeah, it's a case where I think the soundtrack is like exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
It's in its ideal form. But its ideal form wasn't made to win awards. It's made to, like, you should how do I put it?
I can recognize it as competent without thinking it's exceptional.
Yeah, it should receive praise, but it shouldn't receive a special award because there are more unique things out there that deserve that attention.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful soundtrack that when you know that it's there, you can't help but imagine the person that selected it saying to themselves, man, aren't video games the worst?
And I guess now is as good a time to any to move from George Lucas to more George Lucas, I guess.
Star Wars Outlaws DLC that I didn't take the name.
It's
take note of the name of.
I didn't know this game.
Wild Card and a Pirate's Fortune.
Yeah, I didn't know this game even got DLC. I thought it was deeply unpopular.
Yeah. But I guess those are already slated for release.
It's Ubisoft. They make games with DLC already in the works.
That's, I guess, fair. I don't know. I'm kinder to this game than some people I know. But at the same time, like, I don't see myself ever playing it.
My notes start with probably the 3 most damning words of all the notes for this entire selection, which is, it is fine.
I am with you here. I honestly have no opinion that's valid.
Yeah.
It's just, it exists. It's present.
There are a couple of tracks when it's not really trying really hard to really be Star Wars, really, but that's not a lot of those cases. And
no, I even noted down that it's kind of funny that the tracks where it isn't trying really hard to be Star Wars are kind of the more interesting ones.
Yeah,
but they end up sounding like Assassin's Creed.
Okay, didn't draw that parallel, but that's even funnier.
Oh God.
Even with those into account, though, it's basically a single atmosphere throughout that DLC soundtrack, which makes sense because most DLCs, if they're not from Elden Ring, will do that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works, I'll be honest.
Indeed.
It takes a lot to put a lot of effort into a DLC, and I expect that level of effort coming out of Expedition 33's update, which I think is any day now.
Yeah, they've announced they're adding new zone, new post-game challenges and the likes.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting stuff.
I expect that level of care just because I've seen that level of care out of them, and I know FromSoft is going to do that level of care. Though the Night Rain DLC came out, I don't know. Night Rain is kind of the weird stepchild. It feels
it's the game given to the interns to cut their teeth on something before they get to the real games. And structurally, it's maybe a bit derisive to say. That's not to say that the end result isn't a great game for people that aren't me.
Yeah, it's fun to watch sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's a great spectator sport. It's a way to add a randomizer speedrun mode of Elden Ring and have it make sense as something you'd go in their ecosystem for and pay what's that, $30 for access?
I think it's like $30. Yeah, it's a cheaper title, and it is largely an asset flip, but we know from playing the Yakuza games that asset flip is not in and of itself a death knell.
Absolutely not.
I
honestly, the fact that Night Rain exists is something that I respect, because a wrestling promotion is only ever as good as its middle guard. You gotta grow and foster new talent in order to prepare the way for the future of your company or your promotion or your game studio. And none of that is related to Star Wars Outlaws DLC directly.
We have spent the last few minutes talking about anything but this incredibly boring, incredibly derivative, and incredibly pointless soundtrack. Why are we here?
And can you blame us?
Nope. Eddie's just stunned in the corner.
I mean, I don't watch Elden Ring Night Reign, so I'm just here taking my time.
Eddie. Now to talk about Sword of the Sea.
Austin Wintory can do no wrong?
Yeah, this is... My first line of my notes on this is, wow, the Grammys nominated something interesting? I'm honestly shocked. Good luck.
Yeah, this is essentially the spiritual successor to Journey. Not Abzu, the other one. And also, from my research, shoutouts to the full soundtrack with composer commentary that's on YouTube.
Yeah!
It worked well for Chris Christodoulou, and it works well here.
Absolutely.
Austin's as for great. The tracks themselves, yeah, they represent their biomes, and they take you on a journey, no pun intended. They do it very well. They represent what you're going through, and... there's in the soundtrack a ton of player-dependent modulation that isn't there, meaning that the soundtrack listening experience is diminished compared to what you listen to in the game and the kind of feedback only video games can do, which makes it all the more baffling why it's there, because it's such an incredibly video gamey soundtrack.
Yeah. The Grammys have shown absolutely no understanding.
Yeah.
They've shown no understanding of this topic at all the last 2 years running, and suddenly they have, like, a real soundtrack? If this ended up in the Game Awards soundtrack, I'd buy it, right? Like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like, did they swap Death Stranding 2 and Sword of the Sea's nominations by accident?
I can see that.
I don't know. I think Death Stranding 2 that's too weird for the Grammys. If it was Ghost of Yōtei's base game, the one that I heard, swapped with Sword of the Sea, I'd buy it. But again, you have the additional context of very interesting, much cooler stuff that I never got a chance to hear. So, you know. I think Death Stranding 2 is a worthwhile nomination. I don't hate it for what it does.
And I've clearly established that I like every single one of those soundtracks.
Yeah. Sword of the Sea feels too good for the Grammys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is a monster of a thing to say.
Austin, can I call you Austin? Austin, my boy, you're better than this.
I don't think he really had much of a say in this. I don't know why he... It's not like...
Yeah, that's cruel to him, if anything else.
I don't know anyone who's an actual game composer who would be campaigning for a Grammy.
It's one of those, look what you did to my boy moments.
I don't even think it's that, because it's not like the Grammys are transformative. This is just a weird indie fluke. I don't know what else to call it. This is just so wacky. Someone
a broken clock right twice a day?
Yeah. Someone on the Grammys nominations board understood what music is for the first time in history? Like, how did that happen?
Crazy. And that's why it will never win.
Oh, of course not. I hope it does, but it will. No. My money's on Indiana Jones.
Last year, the winner was Wizardry, Realm of the Mad Overlord, or whatever. So I think it has a chance.
Never mind.
Apparently, the one person who understands gaming in the Grammys committee apparently has enough of a saying in this category.
It's entirely possible that one person is just like, I know what I'm talking about, and everyone's like, sure.
Okay, so to sum up, predictions and favorites. For the Game Awards, we have favorites, Expedition 33 for all three of us.
I think so.
Correct.
Expectations, Silksong for Eddie, Hades 2 for Galen, Expedition 33 for me.
That's correct, I think.
Correct.
And for the Grammys, we have favorite Sword of the Sea for everyone.
I think that's fair.
Expectations, Eddie, Sword of the Sea. Galen Great Circle, and myself Helldivers 2, whatever. It would be funny.
It would be funny.
I my expectation isn't necessarily I think Sword of the Sea will win. It's more that I think it has a chance. My expectation is I couldn't quite land on one. I think it's 50-50. I think it's either going...
So one version of your expectation has an answer and the other doesn't. So let's pick the one that's clear.
No, it's more... There are two games that I think can win. I think one of them is Sword of the Sea. I think it does have a chance. And the other, I think, is Helldivers 2, because the Grammys love to give retrospective awards.
Fair. And let me just say as a conclusion, Eddie, that I'm glad the strongest Sovereign haven't done any damage to the fence you're sitting on.
It's a sturdy fence.
It really is. So Eddie's our neighborhood stray cat. Got it.
I'd like to think I'm more personable than a cat, but okay.
You clearly never met my cat.
That I do not.
Anyway, our shows are silly, and the Grammys even more so.
Silly is a word for it.
Yep, there are others that I can't use on this show.
Then how about we move on to the next and final section? Instead of saying for the beaten words.
There's another section? Oh! Duh. Music Arcade now playing. I forgot we were doing this entirely.
That one.
Yeah, I did not prepare anything. I'm going to have to do the seat of my pants. Cool.
All right. I do have entries, so I'll just start us out.
Go for it.
So I've mainly been playing Expedition 33, so I won't talk about that because we already did.
Yep.
But I do have 3 things, starting with the easy one, Bits and Bobs, released today, I believe. And it's essentially in the rhythm heaven with the numbers filed off. And there's been other attempts at that in the past, and none of them stuck with me. Bits and Bob is the first one that kind of gets it so far. I've been I've went to the first remix, which they call the first mixtape, and so far it's really charming, really cool, and the options menu is surprisingly deep. Like, you can pick an alternate entire game engine in case you have a microsecond of delay too many.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks like they've polished it to a mirror finish, which is kind of what you need to stand out in that genre. The other 2 aren't games I've played recently per se, but they are more like small news topic. The first being that Harada, which was in charge of the Tekken series mainly, has announced that he's leaving Bandai Namco very soon, by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And why it's relevant musically, especially, is because he did that by announcing his reason, stating his regret of never having had the occasion to live DJ during a big tournament, and then dropping a 1-hour-long DJ set about the music of Tekken as a whole, plus some samples from other games. Like, there's some Caliber in there, there's some other stuff. It's like, the transitions are a bit jarring at times, but to be fair, there are over 7 games worth of music in an hour crammed together, and the selection has practically all of the favorites. It's been a fun listen. And I'm glad it looks like, given some of the kind of depressing reasons that may have depressing influences that may have led him to take this decision ultimately, such as the passing of Itagaki we've talked about recently.
Yeah.
The fact that he chooses to live kind of on his own terms, dropping something he loves and being the huge personality he seems to thrive in being, it helps soften the blow, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
He sounds like it.
Even if, as a Soul Calibur player, we did have that beef with him during a time where who was in charge of what in the budget and between Tekken and Soul Calibur as a series was a bit misinformed, but created kind of a surprise rivalry. Anyway, fun times. Now, as for the final topic, let's talk about what I learned of Let It Die and Let It Die Inferno. Let It Die Inferno is the follow-up to the weird multiplayer Grasshopper manufacture game that they released and eventually end of serviced. And that sequel is going to have a large language model AI used in its music composition, apparently. As a contrast, Let It Die was Akira Yamaoka being given a budget and funneling that budget into 100 indie artists and said, make what you will, make something fun. You only have one real strong requirement. Name your track Let It Die. We're going to make a very confusing soundtrack. It's going to be so funny, guys.
That actually sounds really cool.
Yeah, and it has some absolute bangers. The level of contrast between some of the coolest ways to compose an OST that's crazy and some of the worst ways to make some emotionless, pointless track is crazy. You basically couldn't make a wider gap if you tried.
I was gonna say, yeah, they went from one extreme in extremely interesting to the other extreme.
Yeah, generative AI soundtrack announced proudly. I presume I haven't seen the announcement directly. I've just seen the backlash, and I'm contributing to that backlash because it's justified. And
as well, you should.
I don't want to listen to that crap. Any game that does that, I'm just not going to play it. There's going to be enough video games and don't need that. We make a point in this podcast to work to celebrate the artists that make the soundtracks we enjoy.
Yeah.
Generative AI is the opposite of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, but not enough to defend Gen AI. If it were a small indie dev who just cannot afford, I would disagree entirely with the decision, but understand why. This is not even that.
I can actually tell a story that almost has me on a dev side for using generative AI.
Go on.
I have a lot of Discord friends in some fairly niche indie spaces. And one of them is releasing a game that is difficult to market. And I was talking to this guy about some of the soundtrack releases, and he's like, yeah, I could not get a singer with my budget to save my life. I even asked my niece, who sings on cruise ships, couldn't do it. So I had to have an AI be the singer for me. And I'm like, I get it. I don't like it. But he did put in the due diligence to try to get an actual singer on this track. I would have just done it without the singer if it were me. But at least in this case, I understand the thought process. I don't like it, but this is as close as it gets to me being like, okay, this Jefferson guy, he tried. the budget wasn't there, he couldn't get a real singer, and they didn't want to be attached to this, and I understand.
Yes, a Grasshopper manufacturer is a company whose parent company is NetEase Games.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, that's a completely different animal. That's just NetEase just saving money. That's it. That's all it is. By replacing creatives because they don't understand the creative part is the part gamers actually care about. Look at the tremendous amount of love we gave to the sheer artistry of Expedition 33 because it's artistry.
I'd like to add to that even for the soundtracks where maybe we didn't enjoy them or didn't like their presence in the award show, we still gave them a fair shot.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that. Because there were real artists here.
Yeah.
And there was real artistry going on.
And it's not just artisan. Like, we tend to focus on the emotional response of the kind of tracks we hear. The way it's used, the way it's integrated, the way it works as part of the game. This is something that requires more intent than just selecting an output.
Another thing that happened earlier this year, I was kind of stuck with what to play, and I forget what I called it, but I did a little like mini game thing. I think I called it like mini game buffet or something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the games was recommended to me by Dez, and it was a Metroidvania-esque platformer. And I realized very quick that almost all aspects of this game were generative AI. And not only did I like feel it emotionally wrong, but the game just felt wrong.
Yeah.
The voices didn't work, the music sounded bad, the graphics were awkward. Like, there's this concept in media called the Uncanny Valley, and this game was deep into that Uncanny Valley. It just made my skin crawl.
I can believe that fully. Like, one thing I've read on, I believe it was on Blue Sky, was a post that said they had a pretty foolproof test for figuring it out if large language models were used in the creation of a book. I think it was a book editor. And it was to ask a question about a seemingly irrelevant detail in the book. An author probably thought about that detail for multiple days over several angles and will not shut up about it if you tried to once you've asked the question. Someone that used AI generation to boil that product into existence won't even remember it's there, likely.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right.
Let's change topics. I think we've made our point clear, and now I'm getting depressed. More depressed than the Grammys award show selection.
We can move on to my list of one, I guess.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, work's been doing stuff to my availability and my fortitude lately. So my list of one is Destiny 2. Because why not?
You play Destiny?
Sometimes. So Renegades came out. It's the expansion which is not set in the Star Wars universe, but it's aesthetically heavily inspired by Star Wars. And it is officially licensed by Lucasfilm. And you get lightsabers. And the funny part, which I was holding back to not bring up earlier, the soundtrack for Renegades brings some cues from John Williams' work. But they don't do like... It's not like you're playing Destiny and suddenly the Force theme starts playing or anything.
Hear me out. How funny would it be if it was nominated for next year's Grammys?
Honestly, I'd kind of respect it because the way they went about doing the soundtrack is they kept the motifs from Destiny, and they added some elements, some audio elements. that John Williams uses a lot.
Great.
And so it sounds John Williams.
We can give this way Ubisoft one rest here. Everybody wins.
Oh, God.
Destiny can save the Grammys.
Oh, God.
That was a sentence you just said. Oh, God.
I'm a Destiny fan, and I'm not ready to defend Bungie like that.
And that's why you are friends.
Yeah, just to finish my thought, I thought it was really interesting how they executed it, because you can't go too far into Star Wars or you alienate the ones who are there for Destiny. Yeah. But you also kind of can't ignore the Star Wars when you are wielding a lightsaber. And so they went and did a very creative thing. I think the soundtrack sounds really cool. You can definitely feel the John Williams influence, but you can also definitely hear that you're still in Destiny.
Yeah, like it's an interesting angle to license the aesthetic, but not the setting in a way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm going to wait for all of that creaking to be done before I continue.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my list of one. Last few weeks have been a bit crazy.
My list is slightly longer, but most of it's going to be from memory. I played and completed Time Spinner, which is a cool, if short, indie Metroidvania. Has some ups, has some downs. The narrative left me very cold, but the music was pretty solid. Right. I started Final Fantasy 16, and I'm going to refrain from opinions other than the following. One, it's Masayoshi Soka, so the music is good. Shocker.
Yeah.
And two, the early game suffers from Yakuza Chapter 2 syndrome, which is to say, oh my god, please let me play a video game. I was raging about this one. Again, you all know me at this point in my life. On the subject of Soken, I am playing FF14, and I've been clearing out some backlog. And some of that backlog was one of the role quests, which had a comedy boss theme, which I hate.
Mm-hmm.
I think the song probably sounds fine, but I hate it in context. Like, why am I dealing with a comedy boss during a role quest? Please take this seriously. I beg you. Nothing interesting is happening in Arknights, so nothing to report there.
All right. Then I won't use the catchphrase back.
Cool.
I gotta hold it back sometimes, you know?
Yep.
Wouldn't want to be a little bit too expected.
Oh, these are all the Noodle Library ones. What else have I been playing? Oh, yeah, and for one day I played Deep Space Cache, a little incremental game that was fine. It had some cool tunes in there.
Congratulations to all the Quack fans in the audience, I suppose.
And yeah, that's my list.
All right. Then that's it for today.
That is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, you can find a playlist of the soundtracks we've talked about in the description below. I'm not sure about now playing.
Not this time.
Not this time. Okay. Never mind. There will be no playlist.
To make a playlist.
But you can find how to contact us, and please do so. We would love to hear feedback. And until next time, take care, everybody. See you around, and hopefully the award shows make more sense than we're predicting.
That would be nice. À la prochaine.
See ya.